Hello, American patriots. Are you a supporter of the Second Amendment? Are you a responsible gun owner? If so, then you know the day will come that you're going to need a trusted and qualified gunsmith. When that day arrives, I want you to contact the man that I trust with my weapons, Mr. Delaney Jackson, owner of Jumpin, a gunsmith and appraisal. Besides being a professional gunsmith, Delaney is a true American patriot. And, a little trivia for you, he's also the manager and guitar player for country music legend Mr. Mark Chestnut. So when the time arrives, take your weapons to the man who treats my weapons like they're his own, my trusted friend, Mr. Delaney Jackson at Jumpin' Jack's Gunsmith and Appraisal. Contact information and website information is in the description of this video below. Thank you and God bless.
I, Douglas Ducote, an American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially domestic. I, Douglas Ducote, an American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially domestic. Say it with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hello, American patriots, and welcome to another episode of the Douglas Ducote Show. You had many places you could be tonight, and hell, we didn't even get the show started without trolls jumping in tonight and claiming that they're going to report us all to YouTube for being domestic terrorists. You couldn't make that shit up if you tried. I swear, a bunch of Tide Pod eating son of a guns. Wow, where do we even begin? It's absolutely insane where we're at right now, not only in America, but on planet Earth. We have the Secretary General of the UN has come out and said that it's a good possibility Russia will resort to using nuclear weapons, and that NATO needs to be prepared and ready if that happens. Basically, that's saying it'd be the end of the world. So thank you, sir, for getting that information out to us. It's much appreciated. And you're right. That is probably what they're going to do. As someone who trained in the beginning of my career in the United States Army to actually fight a war against Russia, their propaganda was nuts back then, and it still is today, and especially with Putin in charge. He is, I'm not quite sure if he's a marble less than our current commander-in-chief or a marble more than our current commander-in-chief. Let's put it this way. I believe that Joe Biden is senile and suffers from some type of possibly dementia, some type of a mental issue is affecting his brain. You can just watch all of his speeches. They're all available right here on YouTube, and just watch what all he's had to say. It's he's all over the board from one issue to the other. He's probably the most spineless leader we've had since, well, let's see. Jimmy Carter comes to mind. Yep, when it comes to the military, that's pretty much what we got right now. And if you're unfamiliar with the Jimmy Carter eras, well, why don't you check into that? Because that's kind of what we got right now. Except Jimmy Carter wasn't suffered from dementia. He wasn't senile. He was just weak and spineless. Now, Putin, on the other hand, is freaking nuts. All right? He's no different than what Adolf Hitler was, or Saddam Hussein, or any of these crazy dictators that we've had on planet Earth through the years. And it just gets worse. Every day seems like there's something different. In the community section of this YouTube channel, I kind of keep everybody updated in between shows about things that are happening that you need to know. So if you haven't done so, when you have time, go check out the community section and watch it on a fairly regular basis, because I'll be putting out information as we go along and try and survive not only this current administration, but survive on planet Earth because of the things that are happening with Russia, with China, with North Korea, with Iran. It's just from one day to the next. Oh my gosh. So anyhow, the first few stories I want to talk about is to give you an example of just how inconsistent, I guess that's the proper word for this, inconsistent the current administration is. So, look, here's my deal. I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat in office. If you're going to lie to us, make sure that everybody in your administration is on the exact same sheet of music as far as the lie is concerned. Don't have the president say one thing and the vice president say something else and the secretary of defense say something else and on down the line. Because then you all look like a bunch of nuts. And it makes we the people go, who the hell's leading us? When nobody, when you've got to cipher through this to try and figure out what the truth is, and at the end of the day, you can't because of the back and forth things coming out of the administration with not being the same, well, just goes to show you how insane this actually is. So I'm talking about, if you haven't figured this out yet, whether or not there are biological labs in Ukraine where, for whatever reason, we were helping fund biological weapon crap, right? Kind of like back to what happened with China and FOSSI and gain of function and all that kind of BS. Well, the same kind of stuff is surfacing here, except one side of the coin says they exist, the other side of the coin says they don't, coming from the same administration and the UN, for that matter. So let's get right into this. NATO's Secretary General on Sunday, this past Sunday, warned that Russia was inventing false pretexts to possibly use chemical weapons following its invasion of Ukraine. In an interview with German newspaper Welt, the chief of West Military Alliance said the absurd claims about chemical and biological weapons in Ukraine might be used by the Kremlin as a false pretext to justify what would be a war crime. In recent days, we have heard absurd claims about chemical and biological weapon laboratories in Ukraine. Now that these false claims have been made, we must remain vigilant because it is possible that Russia itself could plan chemical weapons operations under this fabrication of lies. That would be a war crime, he added. The NATO chief predicted greater hardship for Ukrainians in the coming days, despite their courageous resistance aimed armed aggression by Russia. At a UN Security Council meeting convened on Friday following Kremlin's request, Russian Ambassador Vasily Nebenzy said its defense ministry had documents proving that Ukraine has at least 30 biological laboratories carrying out very dangerous biological experiments. The envoy claimed that the experiments are being done and funded and supervised by the Defense Threat Reduction Agency of the United States. The U.S. accused Moscow of using the Security Council meeting for lying and spreading disinformation as part of its potential false flag operations for use of chemical or biological agents in Ukraine. The intent behind these lies seems clear and is deeply troubling, U.S. Ambassador Linda Thomas Greenfield. We believe Russia could use chemical or biological agents for assassinations as part of a stage or false flag incident or to support tactical military operations. Okay, so there you have the NATO leader saying that it's not true. Let's continue on, shall we? Republican Utah Senator, you all remember him, Mitt Romney, is accusing former U.S. Congresswoman for Hawaii of spreading treasonous lies on Sunday after she shared concerns about deadly pathogens escaping from U.S.-funded biological laboratories in Ukraine aimed at Russia's ongoing invasion of the country. On Sunday, Gabbard, who is an active member of the Hawaii National Guard, tweeted, "There are 25 plus U.S.-funded biolabs in Ukraine which, if breached, would release and spread deadly pathogens to U.S. and the world. We must take action now to prevent disaster. U.S., Russia, Ukraine, NATO, UN, EU must implement a ceasefire now around these labs until they're secured and these agents are destroyed." In her video, Gabbard went on to say there are 25 to 30 biolabs in Ukraine, according to the U.S. government, conducting research on these dangerous pathogens. Ukraine, an active war zone with widespread bombing, artillery shelling, Gabbard said, and these facilities, even in the best of circumstances, could easily be compromised and release these deadly pathogens. Gabbard went on to say that the pathogens could spread to other countries in Europe and the U.S. and cause illness and death, just like COVID-19. These labs need to be shut down immediately, and the pathogens that they hold need to be destroyed, she said. Senator Mitt Romney accused her of spreading Russia propaganda and treasonous lies. Tulsi Gabbard is promoting false Russian propaganda. Her treasonous lies may well cost lives, Romney said. She responded to Romney on Monday in a lengthy Twitter thread. At Mitt Romney, you called me a treasonous liar for stating the facts that there are 25 plus U.S. funded biolabs in Ukraine, which if breached could release and spread the deadly pathogens to U.S. and the world, and therefore must be secured in order to prevent new pandemics. Gabbard began her response thread. Last week, the Department of Defense released a fact sheet describing the Cooperative Threat Reduction Program and a related program, the Biological Threat Reduction Program. The fact sheet stated BTRB has invested approximately $200 million in Ukraine since 2005, supporting 46 Ukrainian laboratories, health facilities, and diagnostic sites to reduce the risk of pathogens stemming from former Soviet biological weapons. Later on in her Twitter thread, Gabbard also specifically referred to the Department of Defense fact sheet on its CTR program, saying the Pentagon fact sheet dated March 11th, 2022, has numerous statements directly and indirectly confirming the existence of such laboratories. The DOT fact sheet further warned that Russian propaganda disinformation aimed at BTRB's laboratories and capacity building efforts in former Soviet Union countries falsely claimed that the U.S. Department of Defense supported the use in developing biological weapons. The Department of Defense said following the start of the Russian invasion that it had ordered the safe and secure disposal of samples, thereby limiting the danger of accidental release of the pathogens should Russian military attack the laboratories. And of course they will, if they haven't already, because hell, they've attacked and everything else. They've attacked the nuclear power plants over there, for crying out loud. They've attacked schools, hospitals, vehicles, buses, trying to get citizens out of the country. They've attacked apartment complexes, housing complexes. They're actually targeting civilians. Some U.S. fact-checking resources have already issued warnings about claims about biological research facilities in Ukraine. PolitiFact fact-checked the claim that Russia is targeting U.S. biological weapon labs in Ukraine invasion as false. Go figure. In that fact check, PolitiFact noted the U.S. Department of Defense does provide funding to Ukraine through a cooperative threat reduction program to help reduce the threat of weapons of mass destruction left in the country after the collapse of the Soviet Union. Last week, Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson also claimed the U.S. has 26 biolabs and other related facilities in Ukraine, over which the U.S. Department of Defense has absolute control. Further claimed all dangerous pathogens in Ukraine must be stored in these labs, and all research activities are led by the U.S. side. The fact-checking outlet Lead Stories issued their own fact check on a claim that referenced the comments and went on to claim Russia found over 30 biological labs with evidence of bioweapons in Ukraine formed by the Pentagon. Lead Story that said many biological labs in Ukraine were established to decommission Soviet-era biological weapons. That is completely plausible. Went on to say, Lead Stories wrote the Russian government did not find these labs during the ongoing invasion of Ukraine, but instead already knew about them as they were formerly part of the USSR's bioweapons program. Despite the superficial similarities between what the congresswoman, or former congresswoman, said, comments and the claims addressed by fact checkers, former congresswoman did not claim that the U.S. was overtly controlling the labs or using them to make biological weapons. Still, her comments drew criticism from one each, accusing her of treason, Mitt Romney. So, let's talk about the fact sheet a little bit. The Department of Defense released a fact sheet last Friday detailing a program it is funded from 2005 through the present day in Ukraine, which gives monies to biological laboratories. The Department of Defense fact sheet detailed the program known as Biological Threat Reduction Program, which is a program of the Cooperative Threat Reduction Program aimed at reducing the threat of pathogens. The fact sheet further says Ukraine has taken steps to secure the biological samples to prevent the real concern that dangerous pathogens could be released aimed Russia's ongoing invasion of the country. The fact sheet stated BTRB has invested approximately $200 million in Ukraine since 2005, supporting 46 Ukrainian laboratories, health facilities, and diagnostic sites. Fact sheet also says that CRT began its biological work with Ukraine to reduce the risk posed by the former Soviet Union illegal biological weapons program, which left Soviet successor states with unsecured biological material after the fall of the USSR. That makes complete and total sense. And it's a fact. This is coming from the Department of Defense, Mitt fucking Romney, you complete and utter idiot, calling a look, she may be a Democrat and she may have been a Democrat running on the Democrat ticket to be president during this past run-up. You know, she wanted to be the person that got chosen instead of Biden. She was, it still is, a member of the Hawaii National Guard. She was a former congresswoman, all right? And she's telling the truth with what she said in her capacity as a commissioned officer in the Hawaii National Guard and her knowledge as a congresswoman, along with what the Department of Defense released. Mitt Romney you owe somebody an apology, for crying out loud. They exist, folks. The biolabs are there. They're in Ukraine. Now, are they making bioweapons? I don't believe so. No. I do believe, because I know for a fact that Russia had all over their country, they had these labs. And when the former Soviet Union fell and the wall came down, each country kept control of what they had, especially the Soviet weapons, aircraft, bombs, you name it, which is what this is all about in the first place. Russia, as in Putin, wants it all back. In order to do that, he has to take the country. So, yes, it is very easy to believe that we're funding monies over there and scientists to get rid of those things, not to make more biological weapons, although we don't know. Because, again, one part of the administration says it's false news, it's fake. Then the other side of the administration says, no, it's there. We've got them. We're funding them. So I go back to what I originally said. Fuck, if you're going to lie to us, why don't you all get on the same sheet of music? Don't tell us one thing and somebody else in the administration tell us something else. And it's like what we hear from Joe Biden. It's from one extreme to the other. You know, he starts off talking about Ukraine, and next thing you know, he's talking about his hairy legs and how kids used to rub him in the swimming pool and shit. It's like, what the fuck are you saying? It's asinine. It doesn't make sense how crazy this shit is coming out of Washington, D.C. And we're the people that are going to suffer from it. It's we the people. They're going to suffer from whatever the fuck Russia does. And it ain't going to be something positive, my friends. Trust me. If that wasn't bad enough, the Iranian Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has claimed responsibility for a series of missile strikes that landed near the U.S. consulate in Iraq, northern Iraq, on Saturday night. On Sunday morning, they claimed responsibility in a press release by the Iranian government. Reported that the IRGC has confirmed launching precision-guided missiles. And other Iranian media outlets claim the missiles targeted the Zionist spy base in Erbil that had been used to plan attacks against Iran. When was the last time Iraq attacked anyone? Oh, maybe that was back when Saddam Hussein was in charge. What are they trying to do now? They're trying to have a peaceful fucking nation and everybody leave them the hell alone. But oh no, because we do have military forces there. We will stay there probably forever, just like we did after World War II in Germany and Japan and over in South Korea. All right. We're not leaving the Middle East anytime soon, because when you do, these crazies spin on up and start doing stupid shit. And we need to be able to strike quick and fast. Iran frequently refers to Israel as a Zionist. The missile strikes come 3 days after 2 Iranian Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps officers were reported killed in an Israel airstrike in Syria. And supposedly this strike was a revenge strike. Regardless, we know that now Iran, who is trying to, we know they're on the path of nuclear weapons and getting a delivery system because they want to, what? Their own words, wipe Israel off the face of the earth and then wipe America off the face of the earth. And we got an administration right now that's trying to get a deal work with them to let them continue to build their weapons. This is the same shit that Obama did when Biden was the vice president, without having the proper checks and balance. And then, while we're at it, Russia's involved in the fucking negotiations. Oh, and then why don't we get oil from them too? You couldn't make this shit up if you tried. This is insane. It's absolutely insanity. Speaking of insanity, General Kenneth McKenzie, commander of the U.S. Central Command, said Tuesday that the Taliban is failing in their efforts to shut down ISIS in Afghanistan, and it appears likely that ISIS terror attacks will increase as the summer months approach. Russia, nuclear weapons, China going after Taiwan, North Korea lobbing more missiles out into the Gulf, pretending they're getting ready to come up with a delivery system for nuclear weapons, Iran launching missiles into everybody. You know why everybody's doing this? Because of weak leadership. Because we don't have anybody in Washington, D.C. with a set of balls to stand up and say, bullshit. You do this, and we're going to kick your ass. That's what real leadership does. That's what's happened in the past, in our history. We've all seen it. Those of you that are around my age, I'll be 60 in a few weeks, are fully aware of what weak leadership looks like and what powerful leadership looks like. Speaking to a Senate Armed Services Committee, the general said that while the Taliban has been less firm when it comes to opposing al-Qaeda, they have demonstrated a commitment to taking on ISIS, even if it's not enough. The Taliban is attempting to maintain pressure on ISIS. They're finding it difficult to do so, McKenzie said in response to a question from Senator Angus King, Independent Maine. McKenzie noted that in recent months, ISIS has carried out some high-profile attacks in Afghanistan, including the capital city of Kabul. This, he said, was even before the time of year when such attacks are typically on the rise. We're coming out of the winter. Traditionally, this would now begin the fighting season, he said. It is my expectation that ISIS attacks will ramp up in Afghanistan, will go into the summer, and then will filter out into the world. McKenzie was not confident at all that the Taliban would stop al-Qaeda from being active, saying he believes they're much less firm on al-Qaeda issues as far as opposing them and being able to limit them. The Taliban famously harbored al-Qaeda and its former leader, Osama bin Laden, prior to the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001. After a 20-year war that saw a temporary toppling from power, the Taliban swiftly retook control of Afghanistan in 2021 as American forces withdrew and the Biden administration surrendered us to the same people responsible for attacking us on 9/11 and all my brothers and sisters that fought and served over there in this fucking war that went on for 20 years. Many of you injured, many of you family members are dead. For what? For this current administration to say, fuck it, we give up. And that's why you don't do what Joe Biden did. There's a way to withdraw military troops from theater, and that ain't the way to do it. He was around during Vietnam. He's aware of what happened. It's just facts, my friends. If you don't pay attention to history and keep looking at it and learning from it and educating youth about it, it will repeat itself. Chinese government spokesperson warned last week that China would deliver a strong and resolute response if U.S. sanctions China for its stance on the ongoing Russia invasion of Ukraine. In a Thursday press conference, the Chinese state-run television station, CCTV, asked Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman to respond to U.S. criticism it had not taken a strong enough response in condemning Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Chinese official responded by saying, those who accuse China of standing on the sidelines of the Ukrainian issue would ask themselves these questions. What roles have they played in this crisis? On the Ukrainian issue, China has been independently making decisions in the spirit of objectivity and fairness and based on the merits of the matter itself. China has been playing a constructive part in facilitating dialogue for peace, he said. My ass. On the second day of the conflict, the president of China said to Vladimir Putin on a phone call upon intervention and expressing China's desire to see Russia and Ukraine hold peace talks as early as possible. Concluded in his remarks on the matter by saying, when dealing with its relations with Russia, the U.S. should not impose so-called sanctions and long-term justification on Chinese companies and individuals or undermine the legitimate rights and interests of China. Otherwise, China will make strong and result responses. China has not yet provided direct military or financial support to Russia since the start of the Ukrainian invasion, and the U.S. has not yet imposed any new sanctions on China in relations to the matter. In an interview with CNN this past Sunday, 3 days after his announced comment, U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said the U.S. has already warned China against helping Russia evade new sanctions from the international community after it launched its Ukraine invasion. And we now know for a fact that Russia is asking China to help them with the sanctions we put on them, to help supply them with what they need to conduct this war, to help them with money, to help them with weapons of mass destruction, to weapons of conventional warfare, all of which China has not said no. And I'm sure I'll be coming to you soon in the very near future, if we're not all nuked and fried like Kentucky Fried Chicken, and let you know what China's going to do about this. Members of the Air Defense Artillery units belonging to the Ohio National Guard have been deployed to Washington, D.C. Ohio National Guard announced on Monday, yesterday, that 30 members of the headquarters battery of the 174th Air Defense Artillery Brigade would deploy to the U.S. Capitol in support of Operation Noble Eagle. The unit will hold a send-off ceremony at United Methodist Church in Rosenberg, Ohio on Tuesday afternoon. That was today. The Ohio National Guard noted this deployment is part of a planned operations and is not a response to the current events in Ukraine. Bullshit. We just send air defense units to Washington, D.C.? Of all the places you could send them to train, how about the National Training Center out in California? That's where we go. Oh, no, but we're going to set up these missile batteries all around Washington? Yeah. Operation Noble Eagle is a joint U.S. and Canadian military homeland security operation designed to protect military installations and critical infrastructure. The operation has been ongoing since September 12th of 2001 and began as part of initial response to the 9/11 terrorist attacks. According to the National Guard Bureau, Operation Noble Eagle initially saw Air National Guard, U.S. Air Force, and U.S. Navy fighters flying combat patrol over major U.S. cities and various pieces of critical infrastructure, including power plants, bridges, airports, and port facilities around the country. Such pieces of critical infrastructure were covered on a continuous basis for several months before the defense presence was gradually scaled down. The integrated air defense system in the National Capital Region, consisting of sensors, alert fighters, and ground-based air defense weapon systems, was established shortly after September 11, 2001, at the direction of the Secretary of Defense. The Ohio National Guard said, originally staffed by active duty forces, the NCR mission has been manned by Air and Army National Guard members since 2003. The mission stands today as a prime example of the National Guard's fulfilling its defense of the homeland mission. Ohio National Guard said the 174th ADA will serve as a task force headquarters unit and will provide command and supervisory oversight support to the Homeland Defense mission, which includes the use of radar, ground-based air defense systems, and communication equipment to protect the national capital region. The 174th ADA has previously deployed to the NCR, including in support of Task Force Buckeye in 2019 and 2020, in support of Task Force Gothic Grays in 2017 and 2018, and Task Force Luzon in 2012 and 2013, and Task Force Phoenix in 2008 and 2009. If you think they're just going there now, has nothing to do with the current situation in the world where everything's burning the fuck down, then you're a far left liberal idiot eating Tide Pods, because they're there to protect Washington because the world's burning and we have no leadership. Oh boy. You guys are going to love this next story. Russia is making an outlandish demand. They did so over this past weekend. They would like the United States to return Alaska and a historic settlement in California, in addition to paying reparations to Russia over crippling American-led sanctions that have put Moscow's economy in a tailspin. They want Alaska back in California. Demilitarization is completed. The Express newspaper in the United Kingdom reported the demands include the return of Alaska, which the U.S. purchased from Russia Empire in 1867 as part of the Alaska Purchase, and the former Russian settlement of Fort Ross, California, 90 miles north of San Francisco. We should be thinking about reparations from the damage that was caused by the sanctions and the war itself, because that too costs money and we should get it back, they said. They also called for the return of Russian properties, those of the Russian Empire, the Soviet Union, and current Russia, which has been seized in the United States, and so on. Afterwards, they were asked if they meant Alaska and Fort Ross. That was the next point, as well as the Antarctica, he said. We discovered it, so it belongs to us. The scale of Alaska marked in the end of the Russian Empire trade expansion and settlement efforts in the Pacific coast of the U.S., according to the State Department. The territory was sold to the U.S. government for $7.6 million. Opponents of the sale labeled it sword folly, referring then Secretary of State William H. Seward, who was a prominent American expansionist. The label failed to stick after 1896, when hundreds of thousands of people migrated to the territory in search of gold. A Russian colony was established, Fort Ross on California Sonoma coast, in 1812. After several years of struggling to grow crops and tensions with Americans in the area, the property was sold in 1841 after it became clear the area was a financial liability, according to the Fort Ross controversy. The demands made by Russia likely will be ignored by the U.S. as it ratchets up sanctions on Moscow over its invasion of Ukraine. Yesterday, the State Department announced fresh sanctions on President Alexandria Lukashenko, the Kremlin's ally, and 11 other Russian officials. On Tuesday, Moscow imposed regulatory sanctions against President Biden and administration officials. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki brushed off the potential impact that measures could have. I would say that would be surprising any of you, that none of us are planning tourist trips to Russia, she said. None of us have bank accounts that we won't be able to access, so we're forge ahead. So I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. Russia's not stopping at Ukraine. Putin's got to be stopped. Not only do they want to take back everything, every country that was part of the original Soviet Union, but now they're saying they want Alaska, Antarctica, and California. There's a joke to be made there, but this is really too serious to be making right now. You want some more bad news? The U.S. military conducted an aircraft carrier-led exercise in the Yellow Sea and intensified air defense artillery drills at a base in South Korea in response to increased missile tests from North Korea, U.S. forces said today. Democratic People's Republic of Korea has significantly increased the pace and scale of ballistic missile launches since September 2021. U.S. Indo-Pacific Command said in a statement, the United States strongly condemns these launches, which include intercontinental ballistic missile tests on February 27th and March 5th. In response, they conducted an air demonstration in international airspace over the Yellow Sea, mobilizing fighter jets from the USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier, along with other regional-based Air Force aircraft. At the Ulsan Air Base in South Korea, the 35th Air Defense Artillery Brigade increased the intensity of their certification exercise to demonstrate its capabilities and commitment to defend the peninsula against any threat or adversary, according to the statement from U.S. Forces Korea. For 4 years. 4 years. We pretty much had world peace as far as we were concerned. I don't give a shit what you think of Donald Trump. He kept all these crazy dictators in check. Maybe it's because they were afraid of him. Maybe it's because they didn't know what the fuck he was going to do next. Maybe. All I know is we didn't have these problems until this weak leadership came in. And once the pullout of Afghanistan happened and these crazy dictators watched our weakling president, our spineless president and his administration is more worried about fucking climate change and nothing against lesbian or gay people or bisexual people. I've got friends that are gay, but they're more concerned. Buttlick over there in Texas is more concerned about LGBTQ LMNOP stuff than they are about what's really going on. They're more concerned about whether or not we can have drag queens in libraries teaching our kids story time. It's fucking batshit crazy. That's what we have leading us right now. I got to believe that somebody in the Secret Service and the FBI is going, wait a minute. We need to do something here. Speaking of crazies, and let's get away for a moment from Russia and all that crap. Let's look at what's happening, hell, right here in America with craziness. A Washington State high school teacher has been placed on administrative leave after being formally reprimanded for making a sexually suggestive joke about lubricants to students during class. We received additional complaints regarding the teacher, so put her on administrative leave to allow more time to conduct an investigation. The Anthracourts, ANACORTES school district spokesperson told KTTH Radio Jason Rentz. Science teacher Casey Anderson initially letter reprimand following a fucking internet connection again. Yeah, Michael, it's going out. It's telling me that it's not. Our infrastructure here in Lake Charles sucks. It's never got repaired since the hurricanes and the flood. Anyhow, let's just get right to what this person did. She posted a photo of a novelty cat butt. It was a cat. I don't know if y'all saw this or not, but it had a hole through it from its butt. All right. It's a tissue dispenser. where tissues are dispensed through the cat's backside. She wrote in a social media post that students have asked how to refill the empty dispenser. She paused for a moment and tells the class, I turned the lights down, put on some soft music, and use a lot of Vaseline. Oh, that's teaching our kids. Wholesale prices accelerated again in February as strong consumer demands and pandemic-related supply chain snarls continue to fuel the highest inflation in decades. The Labor Department said Tuesday that its producer price index, which measures inflation at a wholesale level before it reaches consumers, surged 10% in February from a year ago period. On a monthly basis, prices grew by 0.8%, a slight slowdown from January when the gauge spike was 1.2%. Economists surveyed by Refined expected producer inflation to raise by 10% on the annual basis and 0.9% from the previous month. Over the past 12 months, core prices were up 6.6%. Gasoline prices, which soared 14.8% in the month, accounted for nearly 40% of the February increase. Overall prices for goods jumped 2.4% last month, while prices for services remained the same. The surge in wholesale prices comes on the heels of a separate Labor Department report released last week that showed consumer prices climbing 7.9% in February from the previous year, the biggest increase since January of 1982, when inflation hit 8.4%. Consumers are paying more for everyday necessities, including groceries, gasoline, and cars. The IPOP reading, which marked the 9th consecutive month the gauge has been above 5%, has ramped up pressure on the Federal Reserve to chart a more aggressive course and normalizing monetary policy. The central bank is almost certain to raise interest rates at the conclusion of its two-day policy setting meeting on Wednesday, with most economists penciling in a 25% point hike at the start of a series of an increase that would last for over a year. Hiking interest rates tends to create higher rates among consumers and business loans, which slows the economy by forcing them to cut back on spending. Fed Chairman Jerome Powell has left open the possibility of a rate hike at every meeting this year and has refused to rule out a more aggressive 0.5% point rate hike. But he said, important to be humble and nimble. The economy is going to shit, thanks to weak leadership. A North Carolina school board voted unanimously on Monday to approve an action plan after reported racial bullying in the district, including a student-organized mock auction of Black students. A group of parents and community members had called on the Chapman County School District to make changes after several reported racial bullying incidences at school in the district. In a Facebook post March 4th, Ashley Palmer said her Black son told her that some of his classmates were sold in a mock auction at J.S. Waters School, which serves grades K through 8. Our son experienced a slave auction by his classmates. And when he opened up, we were made aware that this type stuff seemed to be the norm, so much that he didn't think it was worth sharing. His friend went for $350. This is a legit fucking story out of North Carolina. And it's like I'm reading a Saturday Night Live skit. We have so failed our students, our youth. Another student was a slave master because he knew how to handle them, Palmer wrote in her post. She wrote that students also sang using the N-word. In a later post, Palmer said that the students involved in the auction received a one-day suspension, and her son was assaulted by a classmate and faces continuous harassment at the school since he reported the incident. During public comment at the Chapman County School Board meeting on Monday, several students and parents of the community spoke out against what was happening. One mother who said her son was one of the children allegedly sold at a mock slave auction told the board member the conversation she had with him after hearing from another parent what happened. I asked my son, why didn't he tell me? He responded with, Mom, it wasn't a big deal. I'm a mother who just had to explain to my son while being auctioned as a slave is unacceptable. This moment in my son's early life has already made him question playing the sports he loves with his friends. I pray it does not impact him mentally and socially going forward. Before presenting the school board with an action plan, Superintendent Anthony Jackson offered an apology. As a father, as an educator, as a grandfather, tonight was very difficult. It's difficult to sit here and listen and hear and hurt that we did to our children. School for children, and as partners with parents, we're responsible for helping students realize their full potential. As many people identified tonight, creating safe environments for students is the first promise school makes to families, he said. As a newcomer to our school system and to this community, before I offer any plans, I want to do something that needs to be done here publicly. I want to offer an apology to these parents and these kids, an apology to every single student who has ever felt unsafe while in our care, to every student who has ever felt demeaned, disrespected, or marginalized because of their race, ethnicity, sex, gender, religion, or disability. Chapman County School, we proudly boast that diversity is our strength, and moving forward, it will be our intentional focus to ensure that this celebration includes everyone. Moving forward, my personal commitment to you is that we will do better, he continued. Jason's action plan included changes in district policy to how discriminatory situations would be handled from start to finish, including notification of parents and guardians, investigations, discipline, social support, and resources for victims, staff training, and an after-action plan. The board voted unanimously to adopt the action plan. Go figure. When reached for more information on the incident, CNN reached out to the Chapman County School District, and they refused to continue to elaborate on what's going on over there. A slave auction with black students in North Carolina. We have failed our youth. It's a fact. Started a long time ago when we started allowing out on the West Coast far left liberals to infiltrate K through 12 and our higher education, our colleges, our universities, private as well as public. And then it spread like a virus across America. And this is one of literally thousands of stupid ass shit that's happening out there in our schools. These are our future leaders, our future members of Congress. A future president happens to be in school right now, somewhere in America. So what do you think the results of this will be in the years to come? If we, our generation now, don't figure out how to fix it. That is, providing we're around long enough, providing that Russia doesn't start lobbing nukes, and then NATO starts lobbing nukes. The UN Secretary General said it's a good possibility that Russia will resort to nuclear weapons. Why? To save face. Because his ground forces are getting their ass handed to them in Ukraine. They're killing a bunch of people, Ukrainian soldiers, civilians. They're no longer bombing military targets. They're shelling everything. And there's a bunch of their military equipment that's broke down There's a bunch of their people that are leaving, just leaving their equipment, leaving their tanks, walking the fuck away, going, I don't want no part of this. We already know they were all lied to. They were told what Russia kept telling us all the way up until day of invasion, and that was it was a training exercise. We know that because those that have been captured are sharing this information. And then the day of the invasion, they were told it was because Nazis had taken over Ukraine. That's what the Russian soldiers that have been captured are sharing. It's been reported on CNN and Fox News and MSNBC and ABC, CBS, NBC. It's all out there. Anyhow, it's crazy, my friends. I wish I knew the answer to how we get out of this. All I can tell you is if we don't end up in a nuclear conflict, we got to win back the House and the Senate at midterms. And then we got to win back 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue in 2024, or we're done for. If you haven't already done so, please go check out DouglasDucote.com, the website. Please subscribe and like this channel and come back often. If for some reason you're like, I haven't heard from Doug for a while, I wonder why he hasn't put out any videos or any shows. You go to my channel and you'll see that you've been unsubscribed, because that's what YouTube continues to do. We went from almost having 400,000 subscribers to I think it's 126,000 now. As people subscribe, they take away double that, triple that. There's over 1,000 people being taken away from this channel, unsubscribed. And YouTube tells me, oh, it's because they're fake accounts. My ass. Because my son doesn't have a fake account. He keeps getting unsubscribed, both of them. My daughter as well, my wife, family members. Many of you have said the same thing to me. Fuck, Doug, I keep getting unsubscribed. I go back and resubscribe and ring the bell again. So we play their game. It's their game. It's their platform. Until something comes along that works better, and it sure as hell ain't Trump Social right now. Hopefully that will change. Truth Social, not Trump Social, although he's the one that founded it. Anyhow, you had many places to be tonight, chose to be here with me, and for that, I am forever grateful. Thank you. Please share the videos. Please share the channel. Let your friends and family know about the Douglas Ducote Show. As always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving the United States military, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, our first responders and their families, our angel families, our blue and gold star families, and our country. May God bless the United States of America. And I believe we need that